we're going to review Dunkin' Donuts coffee. You see, I have here a whiteboard, and it has different letters on it. You might be thinking, what does that mean with this coffee review? This is the first of many coffee reviews. And so I have to find out which way is the best way to make coffee. And so I have 3 different ways I'm going to make coffee this time. The first one is with a Keurig. As you can see, there's a K for Keurig. Next, we have a percolator. P, percolator. And lastly, we have the French press. F for French press. These 3 different ways of making coffee will be judged by time to make it, taste, and time to clean up, because that really matters. That goes into thinking of, do I really want to make a cup of coffee? I got to clean this up later. But of course, the taste is the most important. If you got a good cup of coffee, cleanup is not as detrimental to making that cup of coffee if it tastes really good. So let's get cracking. As I'm making these cups of coffee, I want to tell you guys about 3 books I have read. They're great books for the Christian, and I think they're fantastic to read, especially with a good cup of coffee. So let's start with the Keurig. We've made our first cup of coffee, and at least it's not see-through. It's got like a little tinge, a little brownish tinge or reddish tinge to it. I like creamer with my coffee. That's about it. I don't like it just black, so. How I order at Dunkin' would be light, no sugar. And yeah, let's taste it. It's all right. Yeah, pretty good. So the first book I would like to suggest is How to Study the Bible. Many people think they know how to study it, or some would think just reading it is studying it, which is incorrect. Reading it is just reading it. There is something to studying that is different than just reading. People will read their Bible through in a year. That is different than studying the Bible. And this shows you different ways how to study it, and really opened my eyes on how to read the Bible, how to go verse by verse, and just things like that. Here's the table of contents. Let me just read it out so that you'll know what's in it at least. Chapter 1 would be conditions for profitable Bible study. Chapter 2, individual book study. 3, topical study. 4, biographical study. 5, study of types. 6, study of biblical and chronological order. 7, study for practical use in dealing with people. And then 8 is final suggestions. But it's been a great help for me to study the Bible. I've done it. I really got into the individual book studies. It's very in-depth and very helpful though. It takes a while, but it is very helpful to really comprehend a book, comprehend verses and stuff like that. It's just fantastic to read. But that is my suggestion. Get yourself this little book from R.A. Torrey on how to study the Bible. I think everyone needs to learn how to actually study. I've seen a lot of comments online, and people are not studying their Bible. They're taking verses out of context or just applying it to how they want it to. This is a really useful tool in really becoming closer to God or getting into His Word just a lot better. That's not a bad cup of coffee. You can find these books. You can find these books on a place called Thrift Books, and it's very cheap. You can find them very cheap. You can find them used, not so used, or almost new, and for different prices, of course. But I've gotten about 10 of these and gave it out to the church people. I think it was $5 for one of these books, and it is probably the best $5 I've ever spent. Back to the Keurig cup of coffee in Dunkin'. You know, it's okay. I've had better. It's not my favorite way to make coffee, but it is one of the quickest ways. I think it took me about, this Keurig took me about, what, 2-3 minutes to make a cup. You know, I can take it. Yeah, I would put it down as a 5, as in taste. Time, I think it was pretty good on time. I think it's up there around we'll do a scale through 1 through 10 will be the scale. So time to make it was not too long, and I would put it at a 8 out of 10. So 8 out of 10 taste, I gotta put it at a 5 because I could take it or leave. I can, you know, it's there. It's good. Taste is a 5. It's good. If I'm not thinking about it, it's fine. If I'm in a hurry, it's fine. But if I wanted a good cup of coffee, it's not so fine. So 5 out of 10, not too bad. Cleanup isn't too bad either. Like I said, I use this quite often if I don't have time to make, you know, time to make a cup of coffee. This takes only a couple seconds to really make it, so cleanup is very, very quick and easy. Really, for cleanup, I'm gonna give it a 9. The only reason I won't give it a 10 is because I'm thinking of this now. If I go and buy a coffee from a store, I don't have anything to clean up. If I go to the Dunkin Donuts store and buy a cup of coffee, they take care of it. So we got 8, 5, and 9. Let's make the second cup. Our second mode of making coffee is the percolator. Now this, I've used the percolator for years, and it's always made, in my mind, a fantastic cup of coffee. So let's make a cup. 1, 4. As that's percolating, let me tell you about the second book that I want to suggest to you to read. It is called The Soul Winner by Charles Spurgeon, and it surprised me. I thought it was going to be about soul winning, and yes, it is, but there's also some other dynamic to it. It's been a while since I read it, but I was just surprised at what it had in it besides soul winning. It just, you know, it kind of touched my heart. Just kind of opened my eyes to some things. Just personal, and just, you know, it's like, man, I gotta work on that. And so it was a great read. Not very big, but it's a very good read. I'll tell you the table of contents. I have not looked at it, but this is the contents. Table of contents. Chapter 1 is, what is it to win a soul? Second would be Godward qualities for soul winning. Third, manward qualities for soul winning. Fourth, messages likely to win souls. 5, obstacles to soul winning. 6, how to induce our people to win souls. 7, how to raise the dead. 8, how to win souls for Christ. 9, the cost of being a soul winner. 10, the soul winner's reward. 11, the soul winner's life and work. 12, soul winning explained. 13, saving souls, our one business. 14, instruction in soul winning. 15, encouragement to soul winners. Yes, it deals with soul winning. That's the main subject, of course, but it's just, it was very, very interesting. I loved it, and I'll probably end up reading it again. Same with the how to study the Bible. I'll probably read that again to learn how to again study the Bible, because there's certain things you forget. Coffee's about done. Let me just read the first paragraph of it, of chapter 1. What is it to win a soul? He starts off with this. This may be instructively answered by describing what it is not. We do not regard it as soul winning to steal members from other established churches and train them to say our peculiar creed, We aim rather to bring souls to Christ than to make converts to our churches. Sheep stealers roam abroad, concerning whom I will say nothing except that they are not brothers, not acting in a brotherly fashion. To their own master they must stand or fall. We count it utter meanness to build up our own house with the ruins of our neighbors' mansions. We prefer to quarry for ourselves. And it's great. We're not here to steal people from other churches. We're here to win souls. He starts off with a good little punch right there. Pow! I like it. Great little book. It's an encouragement. Once again, I think we got this on Thrift Books. Great place to find used books, old books, whatever kind of books. But that's the second book I would like to suggest to you. Let's get a cup of coffee. Man, oh man, look at that. The color is definitely a bit different, a little bit lighter. Let me see. Let's add some cream, of course. Why not? I should have, gave myself the same amount of cream each time, because I think that makes a little bit of a difference when you either got not enough cream or it has too much cream, or there's a perfect amount. But usually I just do it by look, and this looks pretty decent. Looks like coffee to me. Man, a lot hotter. I didn't even put that on the thing, but that should go with the taste. You want a hot cup of coffee. You don't want something that's, but that tastes good though. The other one was, I don't know, it felt like there was a little burntness. I can't explain it. It has a little bit better smoothness to it. Just, coffee has a couple different smells and tastes depending on how it's made. Sometimes it smells like a skunk in the house, and I hate when the coffee smells like that. Sometimes the coffee tastes like someone's smoking right next to me. I'm just inhaling their secondhand smoke, and it's just like, But then sometimes you get that cup of coffee, the smell of coffee coming through the house, it's like, that smells like coffee. And when sometimes you get the taste of it, and it's like, that's a good cup of coffee. And this is man, it's definitely better than a 5. Look, I can read this book and have a nice hot cup of coffee, get me through quite a few pages without it getting cold. Real joy can be yours. Let me just read the back of this. If you are eager for real joy, such as you may think over and sleep upon, I am persuaded that no joy of growing wealthy, no joy of increasing knowledge, no joy of influence over your fellow creatures, no joy of any other sort can ever compare with the rapture of saving a soul from death and helping to restore your lost brother and sisters to our great Father's house. C.H. Spurgeon. What a true saying. All right, back to my cup of hot coffee. Man, I gotta sip at it or else I'll burn my tongue. And that's good. I like that. I hate cold coffee. Don't know how to explain it, but that's smooth. I say smooth, man. So far, Percolator has been pretty good. Let's put it on the charts here. Time to make it. It took me about 5 minutes. I forgot to stop the timer, of course, because I was doing this thinking book review and forgot to end the timer. And so, time to make it. It was definitely a lot longer than the Keurig. I can't think of anything else that would take longer. Maybe the French press. I don't know. I've not made the coffee in the French press for a long time. Maybe making a coffee over a fire. But so far, I think I'll put it at let's see. We'll put it at a 5. All right. 5 to make it, because I'm sure there's other ways to making coffee that might take a little longer. Taste, so far, it's the best taste. Best tasting coffee tonight. This is actually my first cups of coffee today. Usually I have some in the morning, but I was gonna make this video and I was like, I don't want to overdose on coffee. I was gonna have some coffee with my cheesecake, and I'm like, man, I gotta save my cheesecake and for this coffee. I want to go to sleep sometime tonight. Ooh, that's good. I gotta put it at that's good. I would have another cup of coffee because of this one. It's definitely a lot better. I think it's 8. 8. Man, that would be. Now cleanup. All right, cleanup is not my favorite with this Keurig. I wash all the parts. Now, some people might not do it, but I like to keep everything clean. Some may say, well, that coffee oil that stays in there makes the coffee better. Look, I want the same cup of coffee taste every time. And I might put it at a 5 for cleanup. But taste brings it up. I don't know. 5 for cleanup. It's not my favorite to clean up out of all these. Who knows? Man, that's good. I don't want to throw the cup of coffee away, but I gotta make another one. That's good. Man, I put it at 8 just in case there's another flavor of coffee from, let's say Starbucks. Just kidding. Ooh, man, if you like Starbucks, there's something wrong with you. But right now, if I'm going to keep making cups of coffee to tell you guys how good it is or how bad it is, I'm going to make it with the percolator. Because it made a very fine cup. It's smooth. It's not bitter. There's no bitterness to this. No. It's smooth. Smooth operator. One more cup. Let's go. Let's not waste any more time. All right, here we have the French press. Nothing spectacular about it. All you do is, of course, put the grounds in there and then you press it down just like that. Let's get to it. While we are waiting for the coffee to boil, I have it in the tea kettle boiling. Let me suggest the third book. And this is the one I think is mainly for preachers. I guess if you're not a minister or a preacher or an evangelist, it doesn't apply to you as much, but this is called Lectures to My Students. This is by Charles Spurgeon. 28 lectures, complete and unabridged. I am only up to the 13th lecture. The 13th one is to workers with slender apertures. Interesting lecture. So let me read you the table of contents, of course. We have the introduction, and apology. Still have my cup of coffee. It's cooled down a little bit, partly because of the glass. Lecture 1 is the minister's self-watch. 2 is the call to the ministry. Great. It's a good one too to read, that lecture 2. Lecture 3, the preacher's private prayer. Very convicting. Our public prayer, also a good one to read. That's probably for everyone. 5 is sermons, their matter. That's a good one. Like I said, every lecture I've gone through, fantastic. It's been a huge help. 6, on the choice of text. 7, the spiritualizing, 8, on the voice. 9, attention. I'll come back to this in a second. I did 4 scoops in the other one, so I'll do 4 in this one. Try. Let that sit there. Here. We left off at 9, the attention part. Getting people's attention, I believe. That was it about. 10 would be the faculty of impromptu speech. 11, the minister's fainting fits. This is talking about depression, which was also a good one. He calls them fainting fits. The minister's ordinary conversation. That's lecture 12. That's a good one too. 13, to workers with slender apertures. 14, the Holy Spirit in connection with our ministry. 15, the necessity of ministerial progress. 16, the need of decisions for the truth. 17, open air preaching, a sketch of its history. 18, open air preaching, remarks thereon. 19, posture, action, gesture. That's interesting. 20, posture, action, gesture, etc. Interesting. Seems like the 19 and 20 are about the same. 21, earnestness. It's marrying and maintenance. 22, the blind eye and the deaf ear. 23, on conversion as our aim. 24, illustrations in preaching. 25, anecdotes from the pulpit. 26, the uses of anecdotes and illustration. 27, where can we find anecdotes and illustrations? And 28, the science as source of illustration, astronomy. So that is just, it is more to the preacher than anything, but if you're called to preach or if you're teaching a Sunday school class, this probably would be a good book to pick up and learn from. It's quite a few pages in here, of course. Look, I'm not a very good reader. I read very slow, and so it takes me a while. I have had this book for a year, and I've only had it, I don't read every day as I ought to, but there's about 276 pages. A quick reader will get through it quick, but sometimes there's pages or things I have to read over again to maintain it, to hold it. But enough about the books. I recommend, if you're into preaching or teaching and you're in that category, God has called you or led you, I think this is a very good book to pick up and study and learn from a preacher. But let's get to the coffee. Who cares about books? Let's get to the coffee, huh? All right. Let me empty my cup and so I can fill it. Let's French press this baby. The French press, and it looks about the same as the percolator. I might be wrong, but they all look the percolator had less foam on top. The Keurig had foam on top. This one has foam on top. I forget what they say about the foam, but that's still a little bit of difference I see. I feel like this one's a little darker than the percolator. I feel like the Keurig was a lot darker for some reason, but maybe I'm wrong. I'll put them side by side in the video, but looking pretty good. Now, for the cream. The Keurig, of course, even though I thought it looked darker, I didn't have to have as much cream in it as I do these cups of coffee. Time for the taste. Man. Taste burnt, or like the Keurig. I feel like it's as hot as the percolator, but as nasty as the Keurig. Let me try to add a little extra cream. Maybe I didn't make it light enough. Not my cup of coffee. Adding a little extra cream helped. This is how I add sugar to my coffee, is by eating a pastry. Oh man, I'm in heaven now. A little apple, what do they call them? Caramel apple strudel. Strudel bites. Oh man, that hits the spot. I can sit here all day and just eat some of this, read a good book, lecture to my students. I think we got this one from Amazon. I got a hard, there are soft covers, paperbacks, whatever, but I got the hard cover because I knew I was going to use it a lot and I didn't want it destroyed or anything like that. So I spent a little extra on it. My wife got it for me for Christmas. She spent a little extra on it. That's why I wanted it for Christmas, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. Still enjoying it. Still reading it. But back to coffee. I think time to make it, maybe the same amount as the percolator, maybe a little longer, because I had to let it sit there. I didn't have to let it sit there, but I let it sit there to soak up the grounds of the coffee, the water, to, so they can mingle. You gotta wait for the water to boil. Shouldn't talk with my mouth full. I know. So I'm gonna give making it, time to make it, a 4. I can probably get it down to a science of how long you're supposed to let it sit in the French press and so on. But science is done already for the percolator and for the Keurig. It's, when it's brewed, it's brewed. When it's done, it's done. And so, French press will be a 4. Taste, at first it was bad, in my opinion. But as I added the extra cream, knocked off the little edge to it, it made a pretty good cup of coffee. Almost as good as the percolator. So, I would say, I'll give it an 8. But there's something about that, man. I'll give it a 7 because I feel like it wasn't. I feel like it's not as good as the percolator coffee. There's something about it. It's not as good, man. That was a good cup of coffee. Cleanup now. I'm not too excited about the cleanup of the French press. I gotta dump the grounds. Can't dump it in the sink. I think you're not supposed to dump grounds into the sink. So it has to go into of course, the trash can like all others. But the others have little containers. I can just, put my hand in there and just hit against the side and it comes out. This, I'm using the whole thing to, knock it out. I don't know. It just seems kind of big, bulky. And then the filter, to make sure it's clean, and I gotta clean I'm thinking a 4 on the cleanup. I'll put it at a 5. Just as bad as the cleanup on the percolator. All right. Now, what do we got here? And I'm making my decision based on, if I'm gonna have a good cup of coffee, I know where I'm gonna go to. Go to the percolator. Ooh, tired. I kind of want another strudel, or whatever it's called. But Dunkin', all right, let's give the score. Now let's give the score to Dunkin', how it tastes. I honestly don't think it's the best coffee, but it's a very good coffee, in my opinion. It's a very good coffee. I'm not a big fan on Starbucks, I'm not a big fan of donut shop or stuff like that. I grew up on Dunkin', so I might have a bias to it. Made with, I thought Arabica was, I always read it as Arabia. I thought it was coffee from Arabia, and I guess that's the lack of really looking at it, or lack of reading. When I glaze over things, so when I see it, I just see a word, I'm like, that looks like Arabia, and so I'll read it as Arabia, and it's not. It's Arabica. It just means, like, I think a blend of a bunch of beans. It's not just from a specific place. It's just a blend of a whole bunch. So who cares about that, I guess. I just watched a thing about coffee, so I want to show my intelligence. So every time I make a cup of coffee for you guys and to taste it, test it, I will make it out of the percolator, because so far that has been the best tasting cup of coffee I've had, and I kind of miss it. I make it out of the Keurig because it's just quick. Having a baby and got a gut going, and making breakfast, you just want something quick. You don't want to deal with something like the percolator, but it doesn't yield as good of a cup of coffee as the percolator. But I think the winner is the percolator. I might be a little biased because that's what I used for years, but I want to give you guys the best quality coffee tasting experience vicariously through me. So we will stick with the percolator, even though it's a little more of a hassle to clean up. I will take that hassle. The taste, of course, is the most important. If you got a good tasting cup of coffee, you can deal with, a bit of cleanup. Yeah, now let me get back to the Dunkin'. My wife texted me, no, I'm done. All right, it's 11:20 at night. I am tired, and I am gonna go to sleep after I've drank coffee. I don't know about you guys, but coffee does not always affect me going to sleep. It might affect my sleep, but to go to sleep doesn't affect me too badly. Back to the topic of Dunkin'. Like I was saying, it is not the best coffee I've ever tasted, but it's a very good coffee. And I think I've been pondering before I've made the video of where should I put this on a scale of 1 through 10. And it's very hard because I want to put it to the top, but I think I want to leave room for a better coffee. I'm gonna make this list a little more harder to get to 10 than just putting something up there. You got to start somewhere, and we might come back to Dunkin' after we've tasted many, and we'll see. That still is not the better. That cup of coffee is not as good as the percolator one. I've had a better one. But overall, I think I'm gonna give it a 7. A 7, which is decent. I think it's good. It's good. It's not bad, terrible. 7, and there's room to grow. Room to grow from a 7 to a 10. Yeah, I think it's a good 7. So, we will give it a 7 for taste overall. The percolator made the best, so we will stick to the percolator from now on, making any coffees. And I might tell you some stories. There's some other books. I have a book by a missionary who's been a missionary to Africa, and I will tell you of him next time. But he has some wild stories, and we might tell you a story. One of the stories are from his book. And there's a book from a guy I know personally. He's not a missionary. He was not called to preach or anything like that. He was just a layman in the church. But he has some wild stories as a park ranger. He has some wild stories in his life. He grew up with a horse and buggy. His family grew up with a horse and buggy, coming to church in a horse and buggy. And I think he it was just right when he was born when they were switching over. So he was pretty old. He's passed away now, but he left us with some great stories, in which we'll read a few, not all of them, but I want to encourage you guys to go and buy it. Same with the missionary and his book. Go and buy it. But we'll read a few stories, not too many, and we'll look at other books as well. But Duncan, we will put it at a 7. The mighty 7. Here we go. 7, Sven, 7. I like it. I like that number. 777. The number of completion. And that will complete the video for tonight or today. Whenever you view it, hopefully it's been enjoyable. Some book recommendations and coffee recommendations. If you enjoyed it, strike that like button down and subscribe.